Hey guys, welcome back to the Million Dollar Standard. I am Jody Sedini, and today's episode is about something that a lot of high achievers don't actually want to admit. Sometimes the thing that made you successful is the very thing that keeps you stuck. So, my guest today is Dr. Peter Wishney. He is a podiatrist, a practice owner, a consultant who helps doctors scale their practices without working more hours. He's built systems, he's trained associates, he's helped medical professionals move from operator to owner. And here's why I'm excited about this conversation. We're not talking just theory here. I've actually seen his offers, I've seen his ads, I've seen the back end of his business, and I've seen what converts and what doesn't. So we're actually going to be diving into what keeps high income professionals stuck and why a lot of doctors are accidentally underpaid, the systems that can create freedom, and what it really takes to scale without burnout. So if you are the bottleneck in your business, this one is for you. Let's get into it. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jody. Thanks for having me. And thanks for everything you've done for me as well.
It's absolutely my pleasure. You are a tremendous person to work with. It's always great back and forth with you. So I want to talk about the identity shift or the real problem that a lot of doctors are seeing, or even like high value entrepreneurs, right? There's a mistake that doctors are make when they're trying to grow. And can you help us identify that?
Sure. Doctors. That's who we are. That's who we train. We train to treat and help people get better, right? But then we want to have that entrepreneurial spirit where we open up our own clinic, own practice, and we think that, you know what, we just have to treat the patients well, and then patients will come in and we'll be able to take care of them. We'll make money. We'll have a good life. Sounds fantastic.
Sounds perfect.
It's the perfect thing, but it's a mind shift because you're no longer a doctor only when you own a business. If you are a chef and own a restaurant, you're no longer just the chef, right? You need to know how to run the restaurant, and it's very hard to do. It's very hard to do both things,
Hmm.
and so you need to have that mind shift of saying, you know what, I am the CEO, but you know what, no doctor knows what that means. No, most doctors, unless you have an MBA and worked in businesses, really understand how to run a business. And they don't understand the finances. They don't understand, HR and dealing with staff and why that's really the most important thing you can do as a doctor. And they really, on one hand, just want to be the doctor, but they also want their freedom. So if we want our cake and eat it too. And like any other, like all your guests and all your listeners who are entrepreneurs, it's like it's not as easy as we think it'd be. We'll leave our job and we'll have freedom and we'll do what we want when we want. Yeah, right. If you want to make a good living, you're going to have to put in the time, right?
Yeah.
Initially. And then, like you said before, putting the systems in place so the business does not depend on you.
Yeah, absolutely. Why do you think that doctors or like high value professionals struggle to step out of that, just actual role? I understand like sometimes they don't realize that's what they need to do, but at that moment of realization, right, they have a choice of like, this is how this works. Do you think there's still some level of growth or like identity shift that they have to have, or is it like fear or control or ego or something like that?
Yeah, all of that. It is a fear that doing something they don't understand. You know, it's this is going to be hard for you to understand. But even though they own a business, they don't actually want to run the business. They want the perks that come with it. They don't they don't look at their numbers. They don't look at their bank accounts. And again, a lot of that is fear, and of like fear of the unknown, fear of the imposter syndrome. I'm not good enough to do something like that. Even doctors have imposter syndromes. Am I actually helping my patients? They say that, all the time. And then it's a time thing too. Well, if I have to see all these patients because I'm taking insurance and insurance is now decreasing the reimbursements. So we're making less money. And then we still have overhead. Then obviously the only way I can recoup that money is to see more patients. And they don't understand the concept of the rainmaker day. And that is
Mm.
something I've done since I was like 29 years old when I purchased the practice. I had a lot of rainmaker days when I first started, but a rainmaker day is the day you take off to actually work on the business. And the whole, the book, The E Myth by Michael Gerber.
Yes.
It's so he's done an E Myth for physicians and other E Myth series. And you need to actually spend more time working on the business than in the business, because that's where the freedom comes from. And putting the systems in place and not seeing more patients, but seeing the patients you want to see, doing the things you want to see. Yeah, we want to help the world. Fortunately, when you're an entrepreneur, you can help the world. And there are ways to we're not going to turn patients away, but at the same time is you have to have that 80-20 rule, the 20% of the the population that comes into your practice that brings in 80% income. You need to focus a lot on that, on those 20%.
Mm.
And they don't understand that. They don't understand who the 20% is. And it's scary. It's scary to run a business knowing that now, wow, you have overhead, you have rent, you have payroll, you have loans, bank loans, and um there's a lot of risk involved. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of business owners are risk averse. I don't think just doctors, but to go from good to great, you need to take calculated risks.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we talk about that with Facebook ads too. I think we had that conversation of like risk tolerance and
Yes.
understanding like how much can you afford to lose? What are you willing to risk in order to see that success? But if we have very clear, KPIs and numbers that we're aiming to hit in place and we're tracking towards that goal, like it makes sense to take that risk. So yeah, it's a lot of mindset shift there. When did you mentioned 29 years old? Probably just a couple years ago.
That's right. Yes,
When did
a
you
lot more hammer, I'll
personally
tell you how much.
when did you personally realize that you had to shift from practitioner to CEO?
So something about me and that's a little different is that I'm impatient and I don't when I bought a practice after my residency when I was 29 years old and I paid $100,000 for it back in 1989. Now you can figure out how old I am. Just
Do the math.
I just I just got my Medicare card, right? Whoopee. And and I bought a practice and I thought there'd be patients there. But the previous owner was discharging patients left and right because he thought, hey, this young ripper snapper surgeon's coming in and I'm going to see all of his mistakes. And now, even though he's retired, the patients can still sue him up to like 7 years from the date of the surgery. So he didn't want that liability. So he started discharging the patients right
Oh my
before I
gosh.
signed, my name on the contract, on the lease. And so I came in, thought I had these patients, and I didn't. And then I was losing on the average of about $8,000 a month for 3 months. And I called, I got a message. I always say I got a message from Gus. Gus is God, universe, and spirit. So whatever your belief is, right?
Oh,
And,
okay.
and it came from this antiquated machine called the fax machine. And this message came through and it said, learn how to run your medical practice in 2 days, New York City conference, $99, right? Fantastic. I'm going to spend $99. I'm going to learn everything in 2 days, right? And lo and behold, after 2 days, I laid down on two credit cards, maxed out both of them for a total of $18,000 to get myself a coach for the year. And I figured, you know what? I spend so much money on going to medical school, learning how to be a doctor. I need to learn how to be the CEO, the business person, the entrepreneur, right? Because I have no clue what I'm doing. And what it is I could, this is before the internet. and you have to go take out books from the library. You could follow everything they say, but like, what's the number one thing that I should be doing, right? What's the number two, the second thing I should be doing, right? And so a lot of people know what they should be doing, but not in the right order, or what's going to be the biggest needle driver,
Yeah.
and then also how to do it, right? How to do it. So that was the shift because I was afraid that I wouldn't pay my bills, my loans. So I said, I'll take that's the risk I took. And lo and behold, after 1 year, I made more money than the previous owner did in any one of his 17 years of practice.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
That's pretty good. You had a lot of skin in the game. Like, it was the pressure was on.
yes.
So, oh my goodness. Was there a moment where you knew, like, if I don't build systems, this is gonna cap out?
I built systems, but I had no clue why. This was even before I hired the coach. I started myself. I remember I had a month between the closing date and the day that I was going to open my practice. And it was November, December, and we're at a ski lodge in the Poconos. And I just sat down for like that week thinking, well, the phone will ring. Hopefully it will ring. And how are we going to answer the phone? Well, how do we bring a patient through? I just started thinking about these things. I started just writing out a very simple system because, I didn't need anything complex. They have that many patients. With the coach, we really, like right now, if you are a member of my coaching group, you get a 500-page SOP manual on how to do almost everything. I mean, to the point where this is your copier, right? And this is how you put the paper in properly. So you don't keep on wasting a bunch of papers.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. So you started building systems before you even hired the coach. Like, it was just kind of something that popped into your head and you started realizing, like, oh my gosh, I need this.
Yeah, I had no clue why I was doing that. I just thought about it and I said, "Let me write down." I've always done that in school. Like, okay, what am I going to do today? I'm planning and thinking about it, and just started writing out my plan. Basically, that's
Yeah.
how it started.
Yeah. So I want to bring it back to you. You mentioned, like, a lot of doctors think that in order to make more money in their practice, they have to see more patients, and they don't really understand what scaling without working more actually looks like. So how does that even work
How do you make more of that about seeing more
without having
patients?
to work more? Like, how do you make more money? How do you scale
Right.
up without
Okay.
having to work?
Well, I think we can translate this into any business, but in the medical field, it's like, what are the quality patients you want to see? Right. Forget about if you take insurance, you don't take insurance. What do you want to see and what do you want to do? Doctors today will find difficulties in becoming profitable if you're 100% insurance based. And there's the reasons for that. One is even if you submit a clean claim to the insurance, and they could easily say to you, you know what? Let me see your notes from the patient. Let me see if you really did what you did, and they do every little thing to prevent you from getting paid,
Hmm.
right? But then you think about what people want. This is where it starts. What do your patients want? I can tell you today with the internet and Instagram and social media, people do not want surgery if they don't have to have surgery. They don't want painful injections. They don't want be loaded up with heavy prescription drugs. Every single ad out there on Instagram is about supplements. You don't know who to believe. All right, supplements, health. I mean, that's what I get on my feed because maybe that's why I care about. But
We
health,
build our algorithms.
right? Health and wellness, and that's what they want. So you have to provide. Say, you know what? I'll give you an example of like a lot of my patients. Patient comes in with a partially torn tendon in the ankle. So here's the thing: we can go in and operate on this, and we can pitch in a cast. You'll be immobile for about 6 weeks, and then you have to go to physical therapy. Or what we've done is I've done amniotic tissue injections. It comes from the umbilical cord. It's all safe and clean. And I've just with the injection and partial immobilization for 2 weeks. After 6 weeks, without surgery, I've healed many, many patients.
Hmm.
And so again, this is things you could put into your tool chest, right? Your toolkit and say, we have this, and you
Yeah.
have all these other ways to make you better. So we again, you learn traditional medicine in medical school, but you have to think outside the box. What do people want? And be
Yes.
able, as long as it's safe, not hurting anyone, you're honest, you tell them the success rates, and let the patient decides what's best for them. And so that's one way, is to increase certain services into your practice, right? And then you have more time to spend with that patient, to be able to educate them, not feel rushed. If doctor comes in, checks your heart, checks this, checks that. Okay, thank you. Look good. Bye. Develop a. I got into medicine because I love people.
Hmm.
And otherwise, if I didn't like people, I would have been a pathologist and could look under this microscope all day long. Right. Right. So that is the thing. And then taking care of your staff, so they can take care of the patients that you want, things like that. That also helps, using your team around you to help provide services to the patients. So you could then move on to the next patient as well. And doctors have a hard time delegating more than anyone else, I think, in most professions, because we're
Why do you think
perfectionists.
that is?
Yeah,
Why do you think that is?
we're perfectionists. Would you This is the example I give all the time. At the end of a surgical case, would you want your surgeon to say, "You know what? That's good enough." Right? No. So by nature, we're perfectionists. But that trait is not just in the operating room and not just in the treatment room, it's throughout your whole life. So if you
Mhm.
ask your front staff to do something, now you can micromanage them. Um, or you could say, "You know what, I could do it better, so I'll do it myself." But you don't have the time to do it, so it means it doesn't get done. And
Yeah.
certain things, like some admin work, 80% done is better than not done at all, you know? So it's like social media, just take your phone out and start talking. Maybe it's not perfect, right? But it's
You've
better
seen my
than
stories.
nothing.
I do that every day. I'm like, I just burned myself with my curling iron getting ready for this podcast. And I'm like, take out a, it's like, whatever. It's
Right.
content.
Yeah. Content, and it's real. But doctors don't start anything until like it's perfect.
Yeah. So how do you then start hiring or like filling in some of those gaps and plugging people in to do other things without like feeling like you're losing control?
So this is the biggest problem in any business. I love studying businesses, not just medicine. I think we can learn from each other.
Hmm.
Not just hiring the right people, but training them. We hire them, say, "Here's your desk. This is what you're going to do. Go to it." Because one, the owner doesn't like to train. And two, the owner doesn't have time to train. So that's why the only thing I could say I was really lucky about is I started from ground zero, and I found, took a while, took years to find a really good front desk person, a really good medical assistant. Once you find those two key people, they can start training the next front desk person, the next medical assistant, right? And then you no longer have to do it. But again, like you said before, it's putting a system in place and time. You know, I say a lot, in order to speed up, you need to slow down. And what that means is that sometimes you just have to close your practice and call it a training day. And because when you have nothing on your mind and can do one thing that day, and that is to train someone, the results will be like significantly better than trying to train them what I call live on the spot, which
Right.
never really works.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. I can tell you, like, when I've had focus time, if I'm bringing in a new person and I set aside focus time to actually like onboard them properly, the experience for everybody is vastly different. I find myself feeling less frustrated if I just take the time and like dedicate a specific block of time to like making sure that they understand what's going on, what I expect of them, where to find it, how to deliver it, like all of that stuff. They feel more confident because they don't have to figure out the systems. I'm showing them, and then they can just operate inside of what they're really, really good at and deliver me a really good, end product like copywriting or graphic design or whatever. And then the client's obviously happy at that point too, because we're not fumbling and looking like idiots who don't know what they're doing, right? Like I can see there's probably a lot of parallels between, even an online business and an in-person practice. It makes a lot of sense. So awesome. So, I want to talk a little bit about systems and numbers. What numbers actually matter inside of a medical practice? It's so foreign to me.
Yeah, a lot of numbers, believe it or not. And I do this, I separate them by department. And I want to add that who's responsible for these numbers. So when I explain this to you, you'll understand. The CEO job is to receive the numbers, but they should receive the numbers from the individual who's responsible for that KPI, key performance indicator. So in other words, the front desk person, their job is to what? Keep the appointment book full, make sure these patients keep their appointments, and collect any kinds of monies that the patients might owe from today's services or past balances. So that's three things that they're responsible for. We call that their purpose. Purposes are measurable. And then you measure the total number of visits, the percentage of kept appointments, and the amount of money collected at the time of service, right? And then you talk about leadership, you have the front desk person then graph these numbers. And with AI today, that takes 5 seconds. So you just throw the numbers into AI and they'll make a beautiful graph for you. So they graph it and then they'll send the graph and the information to the doctor owner. Better yet, they're going to look at the numbers and interpret the numbers. And this is why I teach why the numbers went up, why the
Hmm.
numbers went down. And from that, what is my weekly action plan? What am I working on this week to either make those numbers go up or maintain it or, or just prevent problems, right? And a lot of times at the beginning, they have no clue, right? So they have no clue how to do it. And that's why I train them. I tell them how to do it and what you're looking at, what happened during the day. And they figure out, okay, this is what happened. Then we have like total new patients, total charges, total collections, your AR by patients, by insurance companies, and your per visit revenue. Okay. So, like what's the value of a patient, right? What's the value of a new patient? And we can even go deeper than that. But those are like the basic numbers that you want to look at every single week.
Yeah. And then having your team responsible for that and sending it to you and you're just reviewing it, that's really powerful. I think delegation is such a big deal. And getting like as the practice owner or the doctor, having to collect those numbers is silly. That's a very delegatable thing to do. So where
Yeah.
do you see doctors leaking the most money though?
Several ways, but one is the top of my mind. It's a big one is the inability to sell their services, even if it's covered by insurance. Doctors see what I say all the time is I'm here to help you get the life you so deserve and desire. And I say deserve because sometimes we forget what we did to become a doctor was like not everyone can do it. Okay. To me, like being the doctor and doing surgery, it's an art. This is my art. This is my instrument, right? And I can't play the piano or sing or be an athlete, and they get paid a lot of money. This is what I do,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so they have a hard time telling someone, "Hey, Mrs. Jones, we need to do this service. The insurance will only cover X, Y, and Z, so you're going to owe A, or they don't cover it at all. And it's just, they just don't know how to do it without sounding salesy and but that's something they leave a lot of money on the table. They go like, you
Yeah.
know what? This is a lot of money. If you can't afford it, you know what? It's not your job to see if the patient can afford it or not. If this is what they need and also having alternatives if they can't. But after all, you just have to tell them what really they need that get him the result that they want and leave it up to the patient.
Yeah.
It really you know what it is? It's coming from love, Jody. It's come from that you care about them. You know what? And just saying to them, "This is the story." People just wanna be informed before they make a decision. That's all.
Right.
That's the biggest way they make leaving money on the table. Plus, not not looking at their numbers, knowing that what should I be working on, this week? What are my goals? Do I have goals? Okay. It could be financial, but you need to know exactly how much it costs to run your business every single month and then how much if it's your salary included, plus miscellaneous things happen, and plus to put money away for a rainy day. Like, you know what? How did doctors survive during COVID? If you didn't put money away, you have to depend on a lot of loans and you have to pay those loans back from the government, right? So you have to put money away so you plan for it. So improper planning as well.
What about even, like, on the back end, like, unpaid invoices and past due stuff? Like, I feel like that's a whole 'nother animal, like
Yeah,
collections and all of that stuff.
sure. That's right up there.
Yeah.
Most doctors have a billing company. I did it in-house. I had people in my office. They have a billing company, and you're hoping that they're submitting the claims and they're submitting the claims cleanly and they're getting paid. But they don't check on that. And sometimes the billing company is not doing their job. And if they do so, then there's a patient balance. And all the billing company does is send the patient a statement. Patient doesn't usually understand the statement. It's hard to get hold of the billing company. So there should be someone that calls the patient to help them explain, you got this statement, let me help you and collect the money. And better yet, knowing as much information prior to coming in, what they will cover, what they won't cover. I mean, the insurance company, what their copays and deductibles are, trying to collect that money up front and telling them this is what's going to happen today at your time of service. This is what you can expect.
I can't think of a time when I had a conversation like that with a doctor, right? It was just
Right.
like you go in, you pay your copay, you hope the insurance is gonna cover it, or I didn't even think about, like, whether or not it would be covered and just went through with whatever. So
Right.
interesting. Very interesting. It's a different approach, and I bet anybody who uses that method and has conversations like that, it's probably very refreshing for the patient
Yeah.
to feel taken care of like that.
Yeah.
Oh,
You're talking about some of the problems the doctors have, and I think people in general, the inability to confront someone, and the word confront, it gets misinterpreted as confrontation in a negative way. To
mhm.
confront it just to give information to someone and to have the ability, because people just don't want like having the negative feedback from the patient saying, and start yelling at them and complaining and whatever. But you just, hey, I'm just the messenger. This is what your insurance company will allow. And I'm just helping you before we do anything.
Right. Oh, goodness. I can imagine there's probably some really difficult conversations that
Yeah.
happen. Just I interviewed my mom last week, and she does collections.
Oh, wow.
Now for online coaches and service providers, and so if there's unpaid invoices or broken contracts or whatever, she helps recover that, and she does a great job, and it's essentially like she can maintain the relationship to the point where she collected, like, lost revenue for somebody, and the person that she had to collect from said, "Hey, I've actually got someone that owes me money. Can I hire you too?" Because she handled it so well,
Oh,
and so, it's just it takes a special person to do that. Um, so I wanna go next into, like, talking about leadership and standard and who we have to become. So what do you see, that separates a six-figure practice owner from a seven-figure?
and that's the answer right there. Your is leadership, and leadership means to practice what you preach. It means that it's influence. Leadership is, from John Maxwell, is purely influence and influencing others to become leaders, developing the leaders around you. And it doesn't matter if you own the business or if you just someone who works in the practice. You are a leader of that position that you're assigned to. So
Yeah.
everybody needs information from other people in the organization, and your job is to make sure you get that information. And it's okay to say, hey, this is what I need to get my job done. And knowing your purpose, getting your purpose out, helping other people with their positions when you move up the ranks, even if you don't have the title. The title does not make you a leader. It's just doing what is necessary to make today the best day ever. Because
Mm.
everybody can do that. You can just go home, do whatever you need to do at home and not worry about work.
Yeah, yeah. What I've seen too in, like, leading a team and, being the CEO of a company, like, at one time I had 17 team members, and I had to hold myself to a whole different standard of, like, radical accountability. There were people that needed things from me in order to do their job, and I wanted to be able to hold them accountable for what they were responsible for, and so in that, like, I had to set the standard, right? So if I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do, how could I expect them to? So we all had this performance standard that we were trying to work for, and then, like, complete transparency among, like, "All right, here's where I'm struggling, here's where I need help. I'm not getting this done because of this, and I need help with that." So, yeah, it's a new level. I love huge fan of John Maxwell as well, and the leadership, development that he has out there. It's so important, and I'm hearing that a lot of us as experts in whatever it is that we do, right, in marketing, in podiatry, in dentistry, in chiropractic, whatever field it is, we don't get into this thinking about like, I'm going to have to be a great leader someday in order to have the business that I want. No, you want to go in and like just be good at the thing that you like to do, and so you have to step into a different version of yourself in order to have that business that you want. What do you see as far as habits go? What habits do high performing doctors and professionals have consistently that sets them apart?
I think these are the habits of most successful entrepreneurs or people. And that is one is to take care of yourself first, your mind, your health. You wake up. I wake up in the morning and I have my coffee and with MCT oil and for my brain, wake it up.
Get that brain going.
My 2 glasses of water first, and then I take my supplements, and then I go and I write down what I'm grateful for. I have some affirmations. I use a headset with some meditation for about 15 minutes. Headset's called Brain Tap. I don't know if you ever heard of it. Brain Tap is
Use
really
Muse. I have a Muse headband.
okay. Yeah, it's similar. Reading something positive for a few minutes. Excuse me, for like 5 pages worth. Work out, and then come back and I already have my plan set for the day that I reviewed the night before and start getting to work. I found, see, my parents' generation was about working hard means working longer. My father was a workaholic and worked long hours. But as I got older, I found that really being successful means taking the time that you're working and really be totally focused on that period of time. Where really maybe we're only working like 4 hours in a day, really productive work, right? But a lot can be done. You'd be amazed in 4 hours. But I think
I can relate. I'm a single mom with 3 kids in school, like, I play chauffeur for as long as I work almost, I feel like sometimes.
right.
But, like, it just means that I really have to be dialed in and focused during the working hours that I have. So I have to set my environment up properly. I have to get my mind right. I've gotta get the other things out of the way so that I can just dial in and focus on the work stuff. So, what do doctors avoid that they should be obsessed with?
Great question. It's the numbers, and I'm just back of my head is like I had a client the other day, and she said, I've been coaching. I mean, you've been coaching me, and I really need more patience. And you've been just keep on telling me, give me your numbers, And I said, well, yeah. I said, well, okay, we can focus on getting you more patience, and now you're going to work harder, but you don't even know what your per visit revenue is. You don't know what a new patient is worth to your practice, so where are we spending these marketing dollars, right? So what are we going after? So now you have all these patients, and these are not the patients that are what I call productive, that are going to actually move the needle and going to make your practice thrive because she has other things that she likes to do. And so in order to work like less hours, you really need to dial in the kinds of patients you want to see that's going to help bring in profit to the organization. So,
Mhm.
and they don't really understand. They see, oh, I got a number, but it's not the number. You put all the numbers together, you have a story. And the story simply says,
Agreed.
hey, yeah, you do need more new patients. Great. Your systems are dialed in. Your staff in your office can handle more patients. Great. Now we go out and market it. The worst thing you can do is market your practice for more new patients, and your practice is chaotic.
Yeah.
The analogy to that I use is that imagine, Jody, you having a party and you're inviting all your friends and family, and we're going to have a really good party.
I love parties.
Right, right, yes. But you forget, but you know what? You didn't have time to clean your house before the party. The food you ordered last minute, and it's just not that good food. And you don't have good music playing. The bottom line is, will your friends come back to the next party? Right? You're gonna make another party and say, no, this party's not good. I'm not coming back. Right? So
Yeah.
you have to, you can invite them, which is basically okay, you invite them. I'm going to have a party in a month from now. I'm going to invite them. But starting now, you have the plan to make sure your place is all set up to make a great party. So
Yeah.
you could do the marketing out there. And as soon as you do that, your phone's going to start ringing. Does your staff know how to answer the phone? When the patients ask these questions, can they answer these questions? Okay. Is your front desk person really a happy, bubbly person inviting them to your party, into the practice? Right. So you had to have the systems in place because you've not prepared to deliver the service, you're going to lose these patients. And then all the marketing time and effort and money is out the window. So that's
Yeah.
why knowing just what's going on, like our patients are coming back. Like you see a patient and you ask them to come back in 2 weeks. Did they keep that appointment? If not, if these patients are not keeping their appointments, then why? And you have
Mhm.
to figure that out before you're wasting a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah. I loved what you said about how the numbers tell a story because I say that a lot about marketing numbers too, is that like a single number by itself, it can tell us a piece of the story, like click-through rate or cost per click. But if we look at all of it together, it's like, there's where the bottleneck is. And it tells us that story so that we can identify what's
Now,
going
you
on.
told me all those numbers because I got to tell you, like you said, what are the numbers in medicine? It's like going, what's the numbers? And like, you know what? Just go out and get clients. Just make as many people want to have an appointment with me to make sure to see they're going to become a client. Let them just do it, right? And I don't care, just pile them on. But there's a total KPIs and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, we dialed that in. We needed to know how much was it costing to get you a phone call, to talk to somebody. So that made sense. We did. We dialed that in. I loved it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go into rapid fire questions. So we're going to
Okay.
try to keep them quick, but sometimes they delve into a little bit of a deeper conversation, but we'll see. Do you think you're more CEO brain or clinician brain at this point?
CEO.
Okay.
I'm retired doctor, by the way, so that's easy.
What is one number that every practice owner should know off the top of their head?
How much money they brought in on a daily basis.
Ooh. All right. This sounds like a difficult number to actually know, but once they dial it in with your systems, they should be able to know it.
Yeah,
Okay.
don't leave the office without knowing how much money you made that day.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Delegation. Is it the hardest skill to learn or is it easy once you commit to doing it?
It's hard for a lot of people. It's hard for a lot of people.
Yeah. Truthfully. Okay. Are you a coffee guy or a pre-workout guy?
Both.
You
I'm
you
just
do you do both?
I mean, so I don't drink caffeine because I have an arrhythmia. So I'll make it very short. So I
Okay.
drink decaf coffee and have a decaf pre-workout.
I didn't know that existed. There's a reason why I'm awake right now, and that's because of caffeine.
Oh, that's still a bit caffeine even in decaffeinated coffee. It's enough. And I love the taste. So I love my
Yeah,
coffee.
I love coffee too. Okay, if you weren't a podiatrist, what would you be?
The first thing I wanted to be was a pediatrician. And the next second thing would have been I would have gone into some form of marketing, MBA, something like that.
Yeah. Okay, pediatrician, podiatrist, or a
If I
marketer.
wasn't gonna be a doctor at all, I would have gone into like an MBA business and do
Yeah.
something with marketing.
Yeah. That totally lines up with what you're doing because now you're doing a lot of that stuff. All right. So this podcast is called the $1 million Standard. What does that mean to you?
$1 million standard. I think it's just a threshold of an achievement. It doesn't mean you need to have $1 million to be happy. I think it's the process of trying to achieve $1 million, and that journey of that is what should make you happy. And so the standard is like it's the beginning of something, and it doesn't have to be. To me, it's like not necessarily a dollar amount. It's $1 million attitude. It's $1 million, you know, um, a system that you're going to put in that will get you wherever you want to go. So it doesn't mean you have to. Like some people say, I don't want to make $1 million. I don't need
Yeah.
$1 million. Fine, whatever that $1 million number is. Okay, it's like the $1 million. You're too young. The $1 million candy bar, and it was a one. I think it was a $100,000 bar, but not
100 grand. The
the 100
100
grand.
grand.
Yeah, 100 grand is
Yes.
the $100,000, and they changed it to 100 grand. And that's just the standard. Just
Got
the
it.
yeah, yeah. It's just
I never knew that about that candy bar. I did like them though. I couldn't tell you the last time I ate a candy bar, but it doesn't fit my $1 million standard.
I want to know what does it mean to you now that
What does
yes,
it mean to me? The $1 million standard is how we as entrepreneurs have to be grounded, focused, and fueled. So that means taking time for that mindset work, making sure that we're spending time in solitude, making sure that we are spending time working on our business, not just in our business, and then fueled properly. So I'm on a challenge where I'm doing absolutely no sugar, no alcohol, making sure that I'm getting enough water, enough sleep. And I think if we want to get our businesses to the next level, we have to become that person who can hold that business. So that's what it means to me. Good question. Is this my interview or
Oh,
yours?
I just think because it's a great question.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you. So, if someone's listening right now and they realize that they're the bottleneck in their own practice, where should they start? How can they connect with you?
Just go to my website, and that's peterwishney.com, and you'll have, it says right there, my name. So Peter
Yep.
Wishney.
And I'll make sure that we have links around this episode and that everybody has a chance to connect with you on socials as well. So, all right, you guys, if this episode hit you, share it with someone who needs to stop being the highest paid employee in their own business. We talked more, not just about doctors and practice owners, but there's a lot of really great business advice here too. So make sure you share it with someone who needs to hear it. So this is the $1 million standard. We build businesses that don't require us to burn out or get completely exhausted in order to survive. So thank you so much for being my guest today, Dr. Peter Wishney, and I will see you guys next week on the $1 Million Standard.